Hello everyone, welcome to Lukmaan IAS. Today we are going to have the Hindu analysis of 10th April 2022. Let's see which are the important articles from today's The Hindu newspaper. Okay, so these are the relevant articles from today's The Hindu newspaper, and as it is Sunday, so you can see the important developments, the articles on page number 13 FAQ page, and also many times good articles appear on science and technology page on Sunday's newspaper. Okay, so on that FAQ page, important articles from mains perspective, major takeaways from latest IPCC report. Although during the weekdays we have discussed some editorial on this IPCC report, the outcome or the, let's say, points which are mentioned in that IPCC report, it is relevant to our GS3 paper environment section. Again, it will be revision for you, and we will try to find out how this report is prepared, then what is mentioned, what is recommended in that report, and how it is relevant, its implications on India. Okay, so GS3 paper environment section. Then changes in Mullah Period Dam panel by Supreme Court. Again, we have discussed similar article during the weekdays, but yes, it will be again revision for you, the basics of Mullah Period Dam, basic information from geography perspective, and what is this dispute between Kerala and Tamil Nadu government, the background here, how this dispute evolved at present, what is status, and recently what Supreme Court had said on this dispute. It is relevant to polity part, interstate relations and center-state relations, especially talking about this, let's say, interstate water sharing, river water sharing disputes. Now, coming specifically for prelims examination, is it difficult to diagnose the XE variant of COVID-19? Okay, so it was in news. Why? Because recently Mumbai or Mumbai Corporation, BMC of Mumbai, they had said that the first such case of XE variant in India, but central government denied that it is, let's say, XE variant case. So why such kind of divergence happened? Let's say, what are different variants of viral diseases, and all these aspects we have to cover here from prelims examination. Then Sangeet Natak Lalit Kala Academy awards given by Vice President here. So some basic information of Sangeet Natak Academy, Lalit Kala Academy is also important for our prelims examination from art and culture perspective. Then improvised GSLV or improved GSLV to be ready by this year. So new developments, we know that last year GSLV launch failed. Earth observation satellite 3 was not able to be put in the orbit, okay, desired orbit, and because of failure of third stage, cryogenic stage of this GSLV Mach 3, the powerhouse of ISRO, or powerhouse of let's say developed by the ISRO. Now, whatever the, let's say, fault that has happened on the third stage of that engine, so this such improvements have been done in that particular launch vehicle. Then rhino population up by 200 in Kaziranga. So we had covered this news on 30th March, but in today's newspaper in photographs or photo frames on 2 pages. So it has again, let's say, covered, or same news has been covered here. So we will revise that from prelims perspective. Okay, let's go in detail. First article on FAQ page, code red. So why the terminology or term used code red? Because the IPCC report has given some kind of warning to different nations, the governments and the common people, so that the situation has let's say became precarious, and because of that we should take certain actions at a faster rate. So let's understand what is given in that report. So how this report is prepared? This IPCC report, Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. If you don't know basics of IPCC, this was formed in 1988 by UNEP and WMO, World Meteorological Organization. Okay. Now, this IPCC is just a compilation body. It is not doing any kind of scientific research or analysis. Rather, it is compiling data, and on the basis of that data, it is recommending some policy measures to the different governments. Okay, so this is IPCC. Now this particular report is prepared by different scientists from let's say from different countries including India. So they collect data they collect data and compile this data. So what kind of data? Let's say the policy initiatives, emission data, different related emissions, so be it coal powered thermal power plants is there, vehicular emission is there, different kinds of emission sources and the amount of emissions. And again, this data is basically provided by the government institutions only, by the national governments, and then that is collected by the scientists to prepare such kind of reports here. Also, the data is, let's say, collected in terms of policy initiatives announced at national stage or also at COP, Conference of Parties of UNFCCC. Okay, and then it is released as a part of report. Okay, and on the basis of that, some recommendations are also given to the let's say policy makers of the countries. So this is how the report. Now this was third such report of, we can say, sixth assessment report. This sixth assessment report will have 4 parts. Okay, this is the third part of that, and the fourth part will be released later this year. So together it will be sixth assessment report. Okay, remember this for prelims examination. Now what is the key message given in this report? So yes, the different scenarios have been discussed in that particular report. So for limiting the global temperatures to 1.5 degrees Celsius by the end of this century, what we have to do is we have to ensure that the emissions peak by 2025, and emissions should reduce, greenhouse gas emissions especially CO2 should reduce 43% by the end of 2030. 43%. And yes, of course, let's say we have to achieve the net zero emissions by 2050s. This is one scenario. Along with that, the methane emissions should be reduced by 1/3 by 2030. If we are talking about, let's say, 2 degrees Celsius by end of this century, then again we have to, let's say, have the peak emissions by 2025, same scenario. But if we are talking about reducing the amount by 25% by 2030. Okay, and peaking, let's say, or achieving net zero emissions by 2060s. This is the different scenario given, and even if we achieve this 1.5 degrees Celsius by the end of 2100, by the end of this century, the report says that there will be some kind of irreversible implications, consequences of such kind of global warming, and it will take a lot of time to further recover from such implications. For example, global sea level rise. Okay, so sea level rise is going to be there as a part of, let's say, implication or consequence of global warming for long period of time. Okay, so we cannot arrest that. So of course, some kind of mitigation measures are must here. This is highlighted or key message given in this report. Now, what are the implications of, under this report for India? Specific point mentioned in this report when, let's say, the measures are to be taken by the policy makers. So the major one is, it is saying that all coal-fired thermal power plants without carbon capture and storage facilities should be shuttered or stopped by 2030. Okay, now this is very difficult for India. Why? You should know some facts here, that around 10% of global coal farm is in India, and India is not having any coal-fired power plant with such kind of carbon capture and storage facility. That means all coal facilities or coal-fired power plants are to be shut in India if suppose it is to be implemented. At the same time, India is having such kind of, let's say, huge development demands, and that requires energy security. Energy demands are there, and that will further require more dependence on coal in near future. Although we are shifting towards more greener sources of energy, but for temporary time period we are still dependent on coal-fired thermal power plants. This is the situation, or this is the major implication one should understand here, specifically about coal-fired thermal power plants. Okay, so it is relevant to GS3 paper environment section, also those having geography optional subject, paper 2 of geography optional subject. Okay, पेपर 1 as well as पेपर 2 we can say. पेपर 1 में भी environmental geography है, पेपर 2 में India से related है. Yes, has Mullah Period Dam panel been changed? So the context here is that recently Supreme Court has reframed or reconstituted this particular, let's say, committee, supervisory committee, sorry. On Mullah Period Dam, and it has been given powers exactly same of National Dam Safety Act under National Dam Safety Authority under Dam Safety Act enacted in 2021. Okay, so first of all, some students may not be knowing what this dispute is all about. Let me tell you that this Mullah Period Dam is on Mullah Period River, which is tributary of Periyar River, one of the important river of Kerala. Okay, Mullah and Periyar, two rivers are confluencing there, and there this dam has been built. Okay, now this 126-year-old dam is basically having unique characteristics. It is, we can say, masonry dam, and which is, we can say, a very old dam, and that's why the safety of this dam is major concern for Kerala government. We will talk about that. But yes, uniqueness is that it is located in Kerala, Idukki district of Kerala, and it is owned and managed by Tamil Nadu government. Okay, this is the uniqueness one should understand. And the canal from this dam, it is diverting water to the Tamil Nadu region, which we can say largely drought prone area, and it is, let's say, feeding this channel of Vaigai river there, feeding the channel of Vaigai river in Tamil Nadu. Remember this. Okay, now why was the Dam Safety Act framed, and how does it affect Mullah Period? This Dam Safety Act has been framed. Why? Because up till now there was no legislation and, let's say, institutional framework to deal with, regulate, and at the same time ensure safety of large and medium dams in different parts of the country. Okay, they may be, let's say, built by the state government as well as central government. Okay, so this was not there up till now, and that's why the need was felt that there should be some kind of national level, let's say, institutional structure, legally created institutional structure. So how does it affect Mullah Period Dam? Now, before that, let me tell you, under this act there are two important institutional structures created. One is National Committee on Dam Safety at central level. There will be State Committee on Dam Safety at state level. Also at national level there will be National Dam Safety Authority, and at state level there will be State Dam Safety Authority. This body will try to formulate the policy related to dam safety. Okay, it will recommend some kind of measures and it will implement those measures. It is implementing body. Fine. So this is the two-tier structure has been institutional structure framework has been created under this Dam Safety Act. How does it affect Mullah Period? Now it is located in Kerala state. It is managed by, we can say, Tamil Nadu. So under this Dam Safety Act, there is specific provision that the jurisdiction of National Dam Safety Authority will be there whenever a dam is located in one state but it is owned and managed by other state. Okay, then it will be the responsibility of NDSA and not SDSA to look into safety measures or implement the safety measures of that dam. That's why this Mullah Period is in news, or how this is concerned here. Now, what has Supreme Court ruled recently in this particular case? You should know the background here, the evolution of the dispute, and latest one in 2014, Supreme Court has finalized the height as 142 feet. Original height of the dam is 152 feet, and Tamil Nadu government wants to raise the height to 150, let's say height of the water level to 152 feet, but Kerala government is always concerned about the dam safety, and if suppose unfortunately dam is broken, or let's say there is failure, then what will happen? There will be flooding of downstream areas. Also downstream on Periyar river there are other dams also, so their safety is we can say at stake. So this is how the conflict is there. Also the Kerala government is saying that they want to decommission this dam altogether because of, let's say, being older and not safe, and build new dam there. But Tamil Nadu government says that we want to increase the height of the water level from 140 to 152 by some kind of repair work, maintenance work, so that more amount of water is available for their farmers. Okay, so this is the situation. At present, the water level is maintained maximum at 142 feet. Okay, so remember this. Now, recently Supreme Court has ruled that the supervisory committee this has been reorganized or reconstituted, and here the chief secretaries of each state, Kerala and Tamil Nadu, along with experts nominated by both states, they will together decide on this all the pending issues on the dam safety. It will also relook into the safety of this dam. All these aspects will be there. This committee will have same powers as National Dam Safety Authority under Dam Safety Act 2021. This is at present, you should know what is the, let's say, Supreme Court ruling regarding Mullah Period Dam. For next 1 year, supervisory committee will work as the apex body to deal with the issue here. At the same time, after 1 year, this will become redundant, and when this NDCS will start working, then it will take over that dam. Okay, yes. Now moving on, is it difficult to diagnose the XE variant? Okay, so XE variant of SARS-CoV-2 COVID-19 disease virus. So it was in news for first time. UK government had raised this presence of this XE variant, which is considered as almost 10 times let's say faster transmission than Omicron. Okay, so what was the cause for varying diagnosis between BMC, let's say, or Maharashtra government and the central government? Here you should know how, let's say, the genetic sequencing or gene sequencing is done, and which are these bodies. First of all, we should know GSED. It is international non-profit organization between partnership between the, let's say, government and private sectors, and it provides open sourcing of, let's say, data of these viruses, is variants, gene sequencing. Okay, so this was started let's say in last decade as global initiative on sharing avian influenza data, and now it is sharing all types of, let's say, virus data and its sequencing. global initiative on sharing avian influenza data. Okay, now according to, let's say, data provided by this particular non-profit organization, the BMC may have, let's say, done the sequencing, and they are saying that it is let's say of XE variant, but the central government, its body INSACOG, okay, so national Indian National, we can say SARS-CoV Genetic Consortium. This is the full form, and this is the full, let's say, consortium of such 10 national level premier scientific laboratories that are there, and they are responsible for gene sequencing of this COVID-19 disease virus variants. So according to them, they are saying that the genetic sequencing of this particular case is not matching the XE variant. Okay, so this is the situation, but the final data by this INSACOG is not there, and in near future that will be decided. Okay, that's why the differences are there. Now, what goes into making interpretation from the genome sequencing? But before that, one should understand that gene sequencing or genome sequencing is the method to identify genetic material of a particular virus, bacteria, or any organism, microorganism, and then classify it. It will be helped to further study its causes, and then it will be helped to mitigate the impact of that, let's say, viral disease, okay, or any kind of, let's say, microorganism. That's why the genetic sequencing is done here. Basically, we are identifying and classifying the genetic material of that microorganism so as to understand the causes behind its spread, transmission, and understand the consequences and how to mitigate that impact. Okay, so this is genetic sequencing. What goes into making interpretation from the genome sequencing? Okay, so interpretations, in a sense, one should understand that for COVID-19, or let's say virus, there are around 30,000 nucleotides, nucleic material, we can say, in that virus, and that is sequenced. This presents huge data. This presents gives huge data, and understanding and interpreting that data is a difficult task. At the same time, how do we know the variations, variants? Okay, so we know that whenever the virus or any microorganism replicates themselves, there are some errors. This terminology is used for mutations. Okay, errors in genetic material, they are called as mutations. And these mutations, identifying that mutation area is very difficult. Okay, so this interpretation task becomes very important, and especially for COVID-19, so many variants are being, let's say, formed, especially this XE variant, which is being called as recombinant variant. Recombinant variant is that type of variant where a person is infected by two different variants of the same virus, and then the new kind of variant that is formed, that is called as recombinant, which is formed because of a combination of the genetic material of these two variants. Recombinant variant. Okay, so what is way forward here for the identification of this way, let's say, variants, is basically state governments from time to time share data to the central government on gene sequencing. Okay, so yes, all state governments are supposed to do some kind of genetic sequencing of certain, let's say, samples they are receiving for COVID-19 infections, and then after that, that data is to be shared to the INSACOGs. Just now we talked about that consortium of laboratories in India. So that will further help to understand the spread of these variants in India. Okay, so this should be the way forward. Fine. Now, Sangeet, Natak, Lalit Kala Academy Awards were given by the Vice President in one of the ceremony. Okay, so 43 artists were presented Sangeet Natak Academy Fellowship and Sangeet Natak Awards for 2018, while Lalit Kala Academy's Fellowship and National Awards for 2020 were given to 23. Okay, so Sangeet Natak Academy Awards are national honors bestowed by the government on performing arts and teachers, scholars in the field of performing art. So remember this, Sangeet Natak is related to performing arts. The awards are given in the categories of music, dance and theatre, and the fourth category is traditional folk and tribal dance, music, theatre and puppetry. Some basic information about these academies, which are premier institutes in the art and culture area of, we can say, or discipline. It was the first National Academy of Arts set up by Government of India in 1952, registered as a society under Societies Registration Act 1986. It functions as apex body of performing arts in the country. Okay, performing arts. It also collaborates with international organizations like UNESCO to save cultural heritage in the country. So performing arts, Sangeet Natak Academy, and visual arts. Visual arts is related to Lalit Kala. It is autonomous organization under Ministry of Culture, established in 1954, and it is fully funded by Ministry of Culture. Apex cultural body in the field of visual arts. See, performing arts, Sangeet Natak. Then visual arts, Lalit Kala Academy. So its headquarter is in New Delhi. This one is also having headquarter in New Delhi. Fine. So this information is sufficient. Now, improved GSLV to be ready by this year. Okay, so yes, geosynchronous satellite launch vehicle, PSLV and GSLV, Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle and GSLV, Geosynchronous Launch Vehicle. Now, up till now, let's say the majority of the satellites have been launched by the PSLV in India. This has been, let's say, this has been the power horse of ISRO to launch the different satellites up till now. But yes, that has some limitations to carry the larger weights. And GSLV has more simpler. Geosynchronous satellites simply, for example, communication satellite. They are heavyweights, and let's say putting them into the higher orbits or geostationary orbits, like almost 36,000 kilometers from the Earth's surface, is very difficult. And for that purpose, we require a different kind of launch vehicles, that is called as GSLV. Now, yes, we are on the path to achieve successfully, launch this GSLV vehicle. Already we have tested GSLV Mark III successfully. But last year what happened is that GSLV Mark III carrying this GSLV F10 EOS Earth Observation Satellite 03 failed due to, let's say, this upper stage, cryogenic upper stage. CUS मतलब क्या है कि cryogenic upper stage. So there was a failure in that third stage. Remember that first two stages are solid fuel combustion, and third one, cryogenic, it is having liquid fuel. Okay, liquid fuel combustion is there in third stage. Now the improvements have been suggested by one of the committee, and such kind of modifications plan include mechanism to ensure sufficient pressure in the tank before the engine burns, and strengthening the VRV to avoid leaks. Basically there has been leak in the walls, okay, and because of that this, let's say, malfunctioning happened. Okay, what is that VRV? Vent and relief wall. So there is failure in that particular, or leak in that VRV, and because of that this let's say failure of cryogenic stage happened. Okay, so these modifications have been suggested now, and in future we can expect that this will be further used to launch geosynchronous satellites, geostationary satellites in India. Now counting rhinos. So yes, it will be revision for you. There is good news for, let's say, Indian one-horn rhinos. There is increase in number of one-horn rhinos because found in recent census in Kaziranga National Park. One of the major, let's say, habitat for this vulnerable species. Okay, so population of greater one-horn Indian rhinoceros in Kaziranga National Park and Tiger Reserve increased by 200 in last 4 years. Earlier it was 2413, now it is 2613. Okay, and here this year's census had for the first time use of drones to recheck 26 park compartments where the sample survey was done. Okay, so some basics about this. About one-horn rhinos, they are found in India. Also known as Indian rhino, the largest of rhino species. There are total 5 species. We will talk about those 5 species in the world. It is identified by single black horn or grey-brown hide with skin folds. They primarily graze, that's why we can say that herbivorous. And conservation status, this is important for our examination. Vulnerable species, IUCN Red List. CITES, Appendix 1, highest protection. What is CITES? Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species. And Wildlife Protection Act, first schedule, Schedule 1. Okay, now there is, let's say, one program of the government, Indian Rhino Vision 2020. It was launched in 2005, initiatively led by Forest Department, Government of Assam, in partnership with Worldwide Fund for India, International Rhino Foundation and other organizations. What was the goal? To increase the rhino population in Assam to 3000 by establishing populations in new areas. At present, where these different, let's say, protected areas in Assam are located for rhino, Pobitora Wildlife Reserve, it is second largest, let's say, reserve for a number of rhinos. Rajiv Gandhi Orang National Park, Kaziranga National Park, highest number. Manas National Park also. These 4 are there. There are total 5 species of rhinos in the world. We have to find out which are these and where they are found and their conservation status. Okay. Yes, Sumatran rhino and Javan rhino on Indonesia's, let's say, islands. The Sumatran rhino has been, let's say, on the earth longer than any living mammal. IUCN status is but critically endangered. And you can see that Javan rhino is also critically endangered. Then black rhino are the smaller of 2 African species. Okay, so there is white rhino and black rhino, African species. Indonesia, Sumatran and Javan rhino. Now, great one-horn rhino, just now we talked about that, India, vulnerable status. Then white rhino, there are 2 subspecies of this white rhino, southern and northern. Now this southern, there are only, let's say, a few species, not about this, approximately 19,000 to 20,000 individuals exist, and you can see the location Kenya, Namibia, Zimbabwe. But this northern species of white rhino, they are almost extinct, only 2 animals are remaining, and yes, it was declared extinct in the wild in 2008 itself, and it is, we can say, critically endangered. Northern, so critically endangered, northern white rhino, Javan and Sumatran rhino. Okay, so they are critically endangered, and greater one-horn rhino or Indian rhino vulnerable. So it is kind of revision for you. What should be answer to this? See, such kind of question was asked by UPSC once. That's why we have framed similar question. Exactly similar kind of question was there, but not like this, but only 4 options were there. Okay, so yes, some unique species, जैसे हमने बताया था क्लासरूम में फाउंडेशन बैच में, you should refer to some standard books, standard reference material to find out, let's say, about this Wildlife Protection Act. Also remember some of the, let's say, animals given highest level of protections. Schedule 1, ठीक है, तो आपको थोड़ा सा रिवाइज करना है शेड्यूल 1 एनिमल्स कौन से है. लाइक टाइगर इज गिवन द हाईएस्ट प्रोटेक्शन अंडर शेड्यूल 1, सो दैट्स वाई शेड्यूल 1 species we have to identify. So yes, lion-tailed macaque, which is found in 3 states of southern India. The Tri-Junction Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve is very famous habitat. So Kerala, Tamil Nadu and Karnataka. One-horned rhinoceros, Assam. So these two are, we can say, part of schedule 1. But the spotted deer and Andaman wild pig, these two, they are part of schedule 2. Lesser level of protection compared to tiger.
So first one is the monkey answer.
Yes, macaque species.
That's why I confused. The second one I know the answer.
Yes.
It is in southern India.
Yes, lion-tailed macaque, already UPSC has asked question on that. Habitat of lion-tailed macaque. Okay, so 1 and 2 is correct answer here. B.
The main specification, it will jump by only tail answer, by holding of tail.
No. Their tail is like tail of lion. That's why lion-tailed macaque. The why name is given. These monkeys or macaque species, they have their tail. It looks like exactly similar to the tail of lion. If you see the photo, then you will see.
No, sir. In practically, I see.
No. That is not the characteristics, I guess. Okay.
If they want to, if that monkey want to jump, it will hold with tail only, sir, in the branches.
We have to see that. Okay, fine. Any question?
So why should, sir, especially last 3 up to now 2 months onwards, I am observing only rhinos and tortoises are coming very rapidly in news continuously.
Rhinos and
red turtle and single horn rhinos.
Single horn rhinos and
red turtles.
red turtles. What is?
Companies articles is coming in news.
No, not that is olive-red turtles.
Why these two only coming?
Their favorite topics of the Hindu newspaper. I told you in one of the class. Okay, so whenever it is in news, so UPSC will the Hindu newspaper will cover. Also, one should know that some of the environment topics, they are largely covered by this paper only. ठीक है, बाकी न्यूज़पेपर में आपको वो नहीं कवर किया मिलेगा, right? So that's why it is relevant to our examination. Fine? Okay, let us stop.